Jensen, some fans online have been frustrated with Stephen Vogt's substitutions and, how he's handling pinch hitting late in games. We got to hear it from you, from the expert himself. How are you grading Vogt's performance so far this season?
He doesn't really have a lot to work with, guys. I mean, you have a lot of position players that have been underwhelming, to say the least, and a lot of young guys that are getting a taste of what it's like for big league pitching staffs to make the adjustments. And, that's not an easy thing to do or deal with on a day-to-day basis when you look at a bench or you look at a platoon potential advantage and it's just non-existent. So, hard for him to try and deal a way of being able to get the upper hand when it's just not there. So I don't see an end in sight there, and that's probably the hardest part. Is that okay? If you'd like some reinforcements, what are they? They're more young kids, guys that haven't had a lot of time in the big leagues. So it's going to be difficult. It probably will get worse before it gets better.
Well, one of the pinch hitters he cannot use anymore is Jensen Noel. Big Christmas gets sent down to Columbus. What are we looking for him to work on down there in Columbus, and what kind of progress can the fans expect, and when can we maybe expect him back up?
Yeah, I thought your post, Chris, was hysterical. Christmas is canceled. Well, it's at least put on hold right now. And again, it kind of goes back to my original point, right? When you see hitters really struggle, not only with plate discipline, but the inability to put the ball in play, right? And it's a tough way to do business. You're not giving yourself a lot of leeway. And to me, it kind of goes back to one of the things that they really harped on with him before he eventually got called up to the big leagues. And so sometimes guys have that early success, then the league catches up to them, and then they get into a bit of a funk. So hopefully those consistent at-bats will get him back into rhythm. And again, you're looking for any semblance of power and offensive infusion to help out with Jose and Carlos Santana and Kyle Manzardo in the middle of this lineup.
How hard do you think that is for Big Christmas? Of course, last year in the playoffs, he hits the highest of highs, and then all of a sudden comes in this season and is really at the lowest of lows. What is that process like, and what's next for him, do you think, from a mentality standpoint?
Yeah, and it's a great question. It's amazingly difficult, Chris. For guys that have the early success, sometimes it's one of those, hey, right spot, right time. And look, none of us would have wanted anyone else besides Jose up in those moments the way that clutch factor was coming through with Jensen Noel. And so the hope would be is that you go back down, you put about 3-4 weeks of work in, and you get the consistent results. And maybe, guys, more importantly, it's the approach. Yeah, you're going to have stretches where, you go 0 for 8, 0 for 12. But if you have the hard contact and you're squaring balls up and maybe just don't have the results to show for it, that's way different than just looking lost at the plate. And that's kind of, I think, where Jensen Noel is right now.
In all of the elevations and demotions with Big Christmas and some of the other moves, Jensen, one thing I'm having a hard time comprehending is why Will Wilson and Jonathan Rodriguez are on the major league roster before some of the other top prospects that fans want to see, Chase DeLauder, CJ Kayfus. Explain that thought process of why you continue to bring up Will Wilson and J-Rod instead of some of the big bats that the fans really want to see.
Your guess is as good as mine, Nick. It's one of the bewildered things of how front offices process information. And hey, maybe they know something we don't. But if you want to have your best team on the field, then why wouldn't you bring up your best prospects? I mean, it's not a matter of service time right now. And if it is, shame on them. I mean, it's about time where you have a team that has really overperformed, I think, at this point at just 4 games above 500 headed into the start of this week. But guys, the numbers don't lie. I mean, you're bottom third in average, you're bottom third in runs, you're just a tick under league average there in homers. If you want to compete here, and we know that Detroit has kind of put some some leeway in between them and Minnesota and Cleveland. It's a week out of first place right now. Like, if you think you're getting back to the ALCS with this kind of lineup right now, you got another thing coming. You may not even make the postseason. So it's time to kind of get out of their own way and really bring up some guys that can impact this lineup. Kansas City had no problem bringing Jack Caglione up. Now, he was absolutely torching the minor leagues in AA and AAA, so it was warranted. But you also have guys like, why not give him the shot? You could do far worse, and I think that's what they got to do at this point.